So we're with Margaret Peterson Haddix today at New Moon Girls, and Ellie, who wrote a review of Margaret's book in the May June issue of New Moon Girls magazine, is here with some questions for Margaret. And we also have a few questions that other New Moon Girls have sent in that we will be asking her as well. I'm Lacey. I'm an adult moderator for New Moon Girls, and I am going to go ahead and turn it over to you to ask your first question, Ellie.
Hi. So my first question is, would you ever want to write a book in the dystopian genre?
Yeah, actually, I have written a couple books that technically are counted as being in the dystopian genre. I have a series called the Shadow Children series where third children are illegal, and that definitely sounds dystopian to me. And definitely a lot of other people think so as well. And then I also have a book called The Always War, which obviously is about a time when war is kind of going on endlessly. And there are a lot of things dystopian about that society.
Margaret, before you ask your next question, Ellie, I want to sort of follow up with that. What are your thoughts about the current, right now dystopias are very popular. They have been for about 3 years. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about what you think is really appealing to girls right now about that genre.
Sure. I have heard predictions that the whole dystopian curve is kind of coming to an end, but I don't know if that's true or not. It does seem like people are still very interested in it, at least right of now. I think it's a combination of a couple different things. I think reading dystopian novels are a way for kids to kind of play out their fantasy of being in a situation where it's a constant life or death situation. And it's a lot more interesting, and you can be a lot more heroic in those situations than if it's just, Mom, could you let me get my ears pierced, or something like that is not life or death in any great sense. So I think that's one of the things that appeal. This is not an original idea to me, but I have read people who theorize that it's kind of a way for kids to work out how they feel about separating from their parents, that in a lot of these dystopian novels, kids really have to make a lot of decisions on their own. And as girls grow up, they're going to have to make more decisions on their own and not have their parents making decisions for them so much. And reading about it in the extreme is a way to kind of work out how you feel about that kind of thing. Ellie, you may or may not agree with me on that thought.
I agree. If you live in the world of your books, what would it be?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you said.
Oh, I said live in the world of any of your books. Which would you want to live in?
Oh, which of my books? Oh, of all my books, which situation would I want to live in? I think I would be very intrigued by living in a situation where we would have access to time travel. And since I have that in the Missing series, that's probably the situation I would be most interested in exploring if I got to be part of one of my books. It's a little bit scary though, because if you go back in time, you can potentially mess up a lot of things. So it's also a little bit worrisome, but definitely worth the interest, I think.
Yeah. Do you think any of your books will ever become movies?
There has been a lot of interest in having my books be turned into movies. So far, it's not gotten to the point that there's a definite filming schedule or anything like that, but I think that someday it will happen.
Yeah, I'm surprised that that we haven't seen movies yet, because I think that a lot of your books are really well suited to that, and they're obviously very, very popular with readers. So I'm going to ask a question from one of our other members right now, Ellie, just so we can kind of intersperse some of those. And this is a question from Rebecca. She's 11 years old, and she's wondering in particular how you got the idea for the book Running Out of Time. And then she wants to know what you would do if you were in Jesse's place.
Oh, I got the idea for Running Out of Time because before I started writing books, I worked as a newspaper reporter. And one of the stories that I worked on as a newspaper reporter was about people who worked at a historic village who were basically like historic reenactors, that they had to act their entire workday as though they were people, ordinary people living on the Indiana frontier in the early 1800s. And I thought that was kind of an interesting job. And so I proposed to my editor that I write a story about them, and went and interviewed a bunch of different people who worked at this place called Conner Prairie. And one of the workers that I talked to said that sometimes when she was there, when it was a slow day, maybe it was raining, so there weren't even tourists there watching them, and she was just going about her business as if it really were the 1800s. She said at times like that, she'd almost forget that it wasn't the past. And I just thought that was so interesting, and that's what led into writing Running Out of Time. And I think there was a second part to that question, right?
Yeah, the second part was what you would have done in Jesse's situation.
Oh, I really hope that I would have been as brave as Jesse. I'm not sure that I would have been, but I'll hope that I would have.
Ellie, you can go ahead and ask your next question.
Yeah, so if they do make movies, do you think the movie would be better or worse than the book?
Well, I almost always think that a book is better than a movie. I can only think of one movie that I've ever seen that I thought it was better than the original book. So I think I would be kind of prejudiced into thinking that the book was better, especially when it was something that I personally wrote. I think I'd have a hard time letting go of that feeling. But it's okay if there is a movie and other people think the movie's better than the book, because that would be a good situation, that it would be nice if it was a great movie.
Yeah, so what was it that the movie was better?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I mentioned that there was one book that the movie was better. And I was which book it was. And I don't mind being quiet, please.
You know what? You're kind of breaking up. I'm turning my speakers up, so maybe I can hear you a little bit better.
You know, I'm noticing a little bit of breaking up too, Ellie. I think it might be on your internet connection. But I do have the chat window here, and I have a copy of your questions, so I can go ahead and type those in at the same time as you're asking them, and then we'll make sure that that Margaret can see the question if she can't hear you well.
Okay, that's a good solution.
So I'm going to just open it. Oh, okay. So the next question is sort of a follow-up to what she's been asking you, and that was whether... Oh, no. Okay. I'm going to go to question number 6, Ellie, because we've asked most of the movie ones already.
Okay.
And now we can hear you well. Why don't you ask your question and I'll type it in at the same time, just to be sure.
The question is, what are you going to write after you finish the missing series?
I think you said something about a series, but what will I write after I finish the missing series? Is that what you ask?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I actually have already written the books that will come out after the missing series is finished. The missing series finishes this fall. The last book, Redeemed, comes out in September. And then I have a book coming out in January that is called Under Their Skin. And it's about a brother and sister who think that their family is very weird. And then as they kind of look into this strange circumstance with their family, they find out that it's not just their family. There's a lot of weird things going on.
Ooh, that sounds
So
really
that's what's coming next.
So is that going to be series 2?
It will be probably just 2 books. It will be what they call a duology, that it's a book and a sequel. So the second book would come out the following January.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Have you written both books, Margaret, or are you still working on the first one?
I have actually finished the first book and gone through the revision process on it. I just turned in the first version of the second book, and I'm waiting to hear back from my editor about ways to revise it. So It's gone through a couple drafts, but it's definitely not totally finished. I'm sure there will be things that my editor points out that I realize, yes, I need to fix this before anybody else reads it.
if you were covering a book, with which author would you like to work with?
If I were to collaborate on a book,
Mm-hmm.
is that what you said? Who would I want to work with?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Wow, that's an interesting question. And it's funny because I just read something today where these two authors who'd written an adult book who had collaborated said it's really nice because then you only have to do half the work. And that's kind of interesting, but you also have to give up half the control. So I think it would, I don't have a specific person in mind. There are certainly lots of writers who write for the same age group that I do that I really admire, but I think it would be kind of difficult to collaborate. I think I'd rather be friends with the people and have all of us do our independent work and maybe not collaborate.
Yeah, that probably sounds like me. Do you think you would ever model a character after a pet?
Would I ever
Do you
model a
think about
character after it?
modeling characters?
Yes. I guess I kind of have because I have a cat and actually he's sleeping right behind me so I can just kind of pull him up and put him on the screen there. He always likes it when I do Skypes and that kind of thing, and he always ends up showing up somehow. But in the 39 Clues book that I did, there was a cat in that series that's very important. And it was really easy to write things about that cat, having cat experience myself.
Cool.
my older cat just came out of hiding, and so it looks like they'll be okay. My older cat and my younger cat fight a little bit, so wanted to give you a heads up in case
if we're hearing that in the background.
Yeah, in case the microphone picks it up, but I think that they're gonna behave. I'm gonna ask a question from one of the members now, Ellie.
Okay.
So, Nadia, who is 11, asks, how do you feel, Margaret, when someone tells you that one of your books is their favorite?
Oh, I feel so happy and so proud. It's just always really nice to hear that.
And then we've got a question from Lily, who's 12. And I think that this is an issue that a lot of girls who are starting to write have. And you talked about writer's block in the magazine, but she's asking more specifically about how to stick with a story. So she says she has a lot of ideas, but she keeps starting them and then not finishing.
Right, which I totally understand because it is, in my opinion, so much easier to start something than to finish it. One thing she might do is kind of make an outline and make sure she's saving something really good and really fun for the very end that she's excited about writing. So it's kind of like the prize at the end. If you make it through everything else, you get to write this scene, which is going to be so much fun, kind of to have incentive for yourself. That's one way to do it. Another way, and I have to admit I've never done it this way, but I've heard of other people who do it this way, that they write the ending first and then they write the whole rest of the story to lead up to that ending. And that way they're not empty and tired by the time they get to the ending, that it's just something that they're working toward. So those are two strategies she might use.
So this is sort of a follow-up question to that, Margaret, that's coming from me because I'm curious.
Okay.
And that with your books, being kind of fast-paced and thrillers the way that they are, do you usually know how they will end, or do you sort of discover it as you go?
I usually have an idea in mind, but as I'm writing, there are always things that happen or that I think of at the last minute that I think, wow, that would be even better than what I'd originally planned. So a lot of times I have a goal in mind, but that's not where I end up because I've thought of something even better. So I kind of use a combination of making it up as I go along and starting out with a plan. And I think that's kind of the best way to do it, because if you start out with a plan and then you think of something better, of course you want to do the thing that's the best, but you can't get too wedded to that original plan.
Yeah, and I think that helps a little bit with not getting stuck if you at least have an idea. I think that part of getting stuck is you feel as if you've run out of ideas. So if you have an idea, even if you change it, it can sort of help you keep going.
Right, right.
Ellie, why don't you go ahead and ask your next question?
Okay. When or where would you ever want to travel for inspiration or research a book?
Where would I like to travel for research a book? Is that the question?
When?
That's where or when, she said.
Oh, where or when? Actually, I am planning this summer, although I don't have the exact plans made, haven't made the airline reservations or anything. But I think that one of the next books that I'm going to write is a book that is set in Spain. And I am going to go there with my daughter in August and do a little bit of research. I have been to Spain before, but it was long enough ago that I kind of want to get a feel for some of the places that I'm going to have specific scenes occur. And my daughter spent a semester in college studying in Spain. So she's really excited about getting to go back and also kind of being the guide for me. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to meet my husband and my son somewhere else. So it'll be kind of like we'll have the little work trip, and then we'll have a vacation.
Fun.
Cool. Okay. And this is my last question. What's your favorite part of the writing process? Is it the beginning or is it when it comes after?
What's my favorite part of the writing process?
Mm-hmm.
I guess my favorite part is that moment when I get an idea that I'm really excited about. And sometimes it's funny, I just did an interview with another girl for something else, and she asked a very similar question, and I said it's kind of like when you first get that idea, sometimes it's like popcorn going off in your brain, that like one thing leads to another and you're like, oh, this could happen and this could happen and this could happen, and that's just such a fun moment. Really great.
So the book that you're going to Spain to research, is that taking place in modern time, or is it a historical?
Oh, it will actually be modern time.
Okay.
And I should say it's a young adult novel.
Ellie, I'll ask a couple more questions from the members, and then if you have follow-up questions, feel free to jump in. And then we'll wrap up and let you get ready for your concert.
Is it a band concert or is it a choral concert, singing?
Choral concert followed by band concert, but I'm not in band.
Oh, okay, okay.
So this kind of relates to what you just said about how excited you get when you first come up with an idea for a book. But Josie, who is 12, first she says that she really is a big fan of your books, and she's wondering how you come up with your ideas.
It's all based on something that happens in real life. Sometimes it's something that happens directly to me. Sometimes it's something that I read about or that I hear about or something that I see happen to somebody else, or I just kind of start thinking, well, what if there were just this little bit of difference in there? So there are some weird inspirations that I've had for my books. One book was inspired by a birthday card. One book was inspired by a puzzle that my daughter did when she was about 2 years old. So I kind of feel like you can get inspiration anywhere.
And how long does it usually take you to get your first draft for an idea?
The first draft is usually 2 to 3 months.
Okay. You're a fast writer.
I do tend to write that, and part of that is because I used to be a newspaper reporter, and you just had to sit down and write.
Sure.
So I kind of do that with the first draft.
Now, Becca, who is 12, she's asking about the character Oscar in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to know, from your perspective, whether you saw him as a good or evil character overall.
That's a good question. I think he was someone who had the capacity to both be good and to be evil. I think he kind of chose more to do bad things just because he was scared and because he was protecting himself. But I don't think he was a character that was totally evil. I think it kind of could have gone either way with him.
And which of your books is Oscar from, just so girls who are watching this later can...
Oh, sure. He shows up in a couple of the different books in the Shadow Children series.
Great, thank you. Now, Ellie, did you have any last questions that you wanted to ask before we wrap up?
No. Except, I guess, what can be the title of this Spain series?
What is the title of the book that I'm going to Spain for? I think, although it could change because it's very much in the early stages, I think it's going to be called The Summer of Broken Things. But that could change.
I like that title.
Okay, good. Maybe it will stay the same then.
I like it too. It's a very evocative title.
Good.
And then, Margaret, before we let you go, now you said that the last book in the Missing series comes out in September.
Right.
And are there other projects that you want to let girls know that they should be watching for, that you're excited about right now?
Sure. Well, I did mention Under Their Skin, which comes out next January. And then I actually have another book, a series that will be a trilogy probably starting next fall that's called Children of Exile. And I also just had a book come out in April that's called Palace of Lies. So that might be something to look for. That's part of a series called The Palace Chronicles, which starts with just Ella, and then Palace of Mirrors, and then Palace of Lies. So kind of a variety of things.
Yeah, there's lots for girls who are fans of your work to look forward to. Well, thank you so much for meeting with us, Margaret. I'm glad that we got the tech all figured out.
Yes.
And I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. Ellie, thank you so much for squeezing us in before your concert, and for your great review in the magazine and the questions that you put together. Did you get a copy of the magazine, Margaret?
Not of the magazine. I got an electronic copy.
So you did? Okay, so you've seen the article?
Yes, I did see that. And I sent you an email, Ellie, but I'm not sure if it went through because there was something about a security warning. So I don't know. I sent an email saying thank you. So in case it didn't go through, I'll just say thank you now.
It came through.
Oh, it did? Good.
Yeah, I just cleaned out my inbox.
Okay.
But thank you. Thank you for doing this. It's been really awesome.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, and good luck with your concert.
Yes. Enjoy. Have a good night, guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.